In today's video, I want to show you how I made a Moana cake. So I bought my sponge ready-made, and you might think it looks a bit frosty on the top. It is. It's because I froze this cake, wanted to use it frozen. It's easier to carve that way. So I started with a template, and then I cut on my cake. So the cake I actually buy from a place called Sweet Success, and what I'll do is I'll put links below to what cake it is I use. It just makes it easier. It's quite nice to carve with. I've got a fairly basic structure here, and we're just stacking the cake up. So I've used like a circle on the back, or a semicircle for the back. That will create like the back of her hair, the back of her head. And then I'm using rectangles at the front, which will eventually become like her chest and neck area. Now I'm just trying to squeeze cake under anywhere that I've got gaps, and then just trim off around the edges. I'm just checking the width of my template compared to the width of my cake, just to see if I've got it about the same. So I'm going now for round cakes as we go up here. Oh, there's Richard getting in short. So you can't really tell what she's going to be just yet. I need to go a little bit taller there. I'm just wondering whether I can create that in ganache or icing later. We're gonna start carving. So I've carved the side of the hair. Her face is gonna go here, and then this will become like the chest area. I know it's difficult to tell at the moment. So let's start by cutting in a little bit of the shape to her face. And I like doing cartoony cakes because they're a little bit easier to do than someone that's realistic. But I didn't quite get it right. Even though I used a template and I thought I'd cut it pretty much to what the template was, I still didn't get the shape exactly as I wanted. More so with the face, I'd say. But it's my fault for not sticking that extra bit of cake on the top that really was needed up there. So let's cut a bit more shape into the face itself. I know a lot of you guys ask what I do with the offcuts. To be honest, usually I eat them or I give them away to like my dad or a neighbour or something. So I've just cut in some little indentations here and there for the hair so that hopefully when I cover it later, it will look like it's wavy. And then I'm going to cover the whole thing in chocolate ganache. Now, if you're wondering why it looks a little bit shiny, I overheated it. I overheated it again. That's about the 4th time in a row I've overheated it. It will look a little bit thicker when it goes back to room temperature, more like what I need it to be. I was too impatient to wait for it to cool down again. But I'm covering her everywhere, basically, in this layer of ganache. And then I'm going to use a flexible smoother, and we're going to scrape over that to get it a little bit smoother. It's less important in the hair area because of the texture of the hair. It won't be too obvious if we have any lumps and bumps. But for the face, it wants to be nice and smooth. Then I'm going to use my template to kind of mark on where I want her features to go. And I'm just going to scrape it out a little bit. So this is kind of similar to the tools that you use when you're doing clay. This one is an actual cake decorating tool, though, is this one. I'll put links below to everything I've used in the video. And I'm just gonna, and I have washed my hands, by the way, guys. I know I'm gonna get lots of comments, and it's not for anyone in particular. This cake is not like a customer cake or anything like that. So we stick on the lips, and then I'm gonna do a bit more shaping. And I've just put some little balls of fondant on the nose, just so that sticks out a bit more. And then we're gonna cover the whole body, or the flesh area in this. Now, this is actually the fondant that I have left from the Maui cake that I made in last week's video. So I'll put a link up for you guys to click if you want to see the Maui cake as well. We're just going to cut it off where it goes near the edge of like her dress. And the thing that I'm using for water is actually like one of those face mister things. I've never used it for my face. It has only ever had water, and I basically bought it for doing paper flowers with, or wafer paper flowers. So I'm just using a balling tool to add in the indentations to the collarbone, a little bit more definition up towards her armpit. Again, just a bit of mist of water ready for sticking the fondant on her face. So the skin colour is probably not quite the exact right colour that I need for her, but we'll dust it up later to make it a little bit more like it should be. Now, I didn't notice, can you see under her jaw, I didn't quite get the fondant to meet. I didn't notice till I was watching the video back. And then we're going to go in on her nose. Her nose looks a bit big at this point. And it's funny how when you're making it, you don't realise until you watch it back. Hopefully we can sort that out. Well, I know I sorted it out slightly. It was still a little bit too big by the end. But okay, her mouth. So I put a cut in the middle. We've got little indentations at the edges. And then I'm just going to try and sort of press the lips to shape with my finger and some tools. I need to push the inside of her mouth in a little bit. We'll fill that later because she needs some teeth. Just trying to concentrate on the edge of the mouth. And again, just trying to make that nose a little bit smaller. Let's trim off any extra from around the edge. And if you're wondering what I'm smoothing it down with, it is a piece of fondant just wrapped in cling film. And then we're going to mark in the eyes and use the balling tool to push those in a little bit deeper. Okay, so I've just got some cream fondant, and we're going to put this on her strap for her outfit. Now, the print off I got, I just found an image online on the internet. So I don't actually recognize this costume. So maybe one she wears in the second film. As of me making this, the second Moana isn't out, but it's out anytime soon. So I can't wait to go watch it. And then I'll see if she wears this outfit or not. Okay, so pieces of the hair, I'm just going to cut, we're using brown fondant, again, left over from Maui, and I'm just going to cut the edge so that it fits around the shape of her face. Just misting it again, just so it's a little bit damp when I stick it on. Now, if you fold it in places, it gives us a bit more volume, a bit more shape. I think it looks nice like that for the hair. I'm just going to try and tuck it in the best I can towards her neck. If it doesn't go in fully touching the neck, don't worry, we can add individual pieces of hair to this later. And then I'm going to put lots of individual lines in. Again, it's just like what I did on the last cake with Maui, only she's 3D rather than being like a face cake. So I wanted to do them so they weren't both the same kind of cake, because obviously we're using all the same colors. They just have different, obviously, what kind of different hair, and then different shaped faces. So I'll fill in the rest of the hair going all the way around the back. So I didn't stick it on in one piece. It was too big a piece to add in one. And then we're going to put a little bit of the brown that's left from the hair inside her mouth. So she's starting to take shape. She still looks a bit weird. I'm going to use some brown for the brows. Now, I know the brown isn't actually dark enough for the hair either, but we will change the color later. And let's add some hairlines into her eyebrows. And then we're going to put on the colored dusts. So this is edible dust powder that I'm using. I realized I didn't get them in the shot. You will have seen me use these powders a lot in the last video. Again, exactly the same as I did on the Maui video. So I haven't shown you as much with the dusting process on this one, but do check out the other video to see a little bit more on that, because I just do it in the same way. So some whites for the eyes. I've actually got some more of her skin color rolled really thin I'm using for the iris, and I will change the color of that a little bit later, or paint it so it looks different. And then I've got the brown for the pupil. She looks weird at the moment, but it's fine. I have to trust the process sometimes. Okay, so a small piece of white in the top of her mouth and the bottom of her teeth. She looks a bit scary so far. The brown's not dark enough. I'm just going to colour over that with an edible pen. And then I'm also using an edible pen for the brown for the outer edge of the iris. So I'll just flick it inwards, and then I'm just going to go over it lightly with a slightly damp brush as well, just to kind of blend it a little bit more. And I'm going to go a bit darker and just go black on the very outer edge, and sort of more towards the bottom. I want the bottom of the eye to look a little bit darker. And I'm going to use this to put the bottom line for the lashes on. And let's draw the top lashes on. I think I might have gone a little bit big with her lashes, I'm not sure. But I'm also going to roll them in some black modelling paste as well. So we're thin at one end. I'm going to stick that into the inside corner. And we'll just trim it off at the outer edge. And I'm just going to put some indentations in. Now, it doesn't look like it flows fully into her other eyelashes. I wish I'd kind of done that a little bit differently. And then I'm just adding some of that black pen to her eyebrows. And you can use a brush as well. Sometimes if I dampen the brush and rub it on the end of the pen, I can just use it as if it's a paint. Okay, so we're going to get some shading and some colour in. Again, just with the edible powders, you can just about see them in the background. They look like a makeup palette, but I promise they're not, guys. They are edible powder colours. So the little fur trim, I think it's a fur trim on her outfit, we're going to create using a little daisy cutter. So I've rolled it's almost like a burgundy red that I've got here. I'm going to cut out these little flower shapes, and I'm going to press them on. I'm going to try and fold them up a little bit. I want them bunched in together really nice and tightly. And I'm just sticking them on with a little bit of water. And they go all the way down the one side of her strap and then across the top of her outfit as well. I'll leave a little gap in the middle where her necklace is going to go. And then I've rolled nice and thin some like pale brown for the cord of her necklace and the edge of her strap. It's going to make some little shells, and I didn't get it in focus here, sorry guys. But it's just an oval with a little line pressed into the middle. And then we're going to add more of the, I'm going to call it a cord rather than a string. I don't know what you call it. For the necklace or the edging of her dress. I'm using some pearlized powder mixed with some rejuvenating spirit to add a little bit of a pearlescent look to those. And then we've just darkened the middle of the shells. Now for the hair, I am going to go over it with a really diluted mix of black food colour. So it's the black powder colour mixed with the dip-in solution. Now, if you get it nice and runny, the dark bits will run into the lines that we've put in. And then it still stays a little bit lighter in between those areas. Then we're going to cut some smaller pieces of hair and we're going to add them. I'm just sticking them with a little bit of water to the front. And I want to try and use some isomalt on her somewhere. I'm going to use some Simi Cakes isomalt. I actually did a class with her the other day and I only know very basic stuff, but I was keen to get it in here somewhere. So I've heated the isomalt, it's a glittery one. I've added a bit of blue food colour and then I've just rolled it into a bit of an oval shape and flattened it a little bit. You should use the heat gloves, guys, so just be very careful just using your hands because it does get very hot. And I love the effect of it. I'm just using fondant around the top edge to put in some little markings. Now, at the moment, it's nice and shiny. Isomalt, I think, does cloud up and go sticky, so you have to glaze it in like an edible glaze. Just dust a little bit of black powder on there just to darken it a little bit. So the glaze made it nice and shiny at first. Then when it dried, it dulled it right down. I didn't know it was going to do that, so I don't know if I did something wrong there. It lost its nice shine. But I'm just going to add some sugar to the base for the sand. I did this in the SpongeBob SquarePants video as well, so you can see how I made that over there. This bit just tidies up the bottom edge of the cake where I didn't get it overly neat. So I think I didn't get the shape of her face quite right. She's a tiny bit scary looking still, but there she is.
So she's done. She's finished. Now for the cutting part. I feel like you guys like to see the cutting part. I feel like I don't want to cut her. She's not perfect though. She still needs, well, I'm not altering her now, but you know, she could do with a few more alterations, but there we go. I'm going to cut her so you guys can see it. And then my sister will probably take the cake and share it with her work friends. Or maybe I'll give it to the neighbors. I know a lot of you guys ask what I do with the cakes. So yeah, I give a lot to my dad, but you know, there's only so much cake he can eat in 1 week, so.
So here's a look at her close up before I cut into her. The nerve-wracking bit. Now my fondant usually goes fairly firm, especially because it's cold in here, which makes cutting it that little bit harder. Also, I did put the fondant on way too thick. Sometimes you have to go thicker on sculpted cakes with the fondant than what you would do on just like a normal round cake. And of course, we have to cut into her face as well so we can see what it's like in there. And did you know, guys, I also have a book out at the moment, which you can find over on my website, and it's also available on Amazon. And if you want more in-depth classes, I also have some online classes as well. You can find those over on my website too. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe and hit the notifications bell for more videos like this one. See you next time.